The Flash won't let me go back to my world, so I'll take his.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 9, and this will be my review and breakdown for The Flash Season 9, Episode 4, aka the penultimate episode for this graphic novel, aka the Red Death arc, titled The Mask of the Red Death, Part 1. Now, just giving you guys my overall thoughts on this episode before I go more in detail with the review and breakdown itself. I have mixed feelings on this episode. I still don't think the episode was amazing or anything like that. I definitely thought it was better than mid this time. But there are still some things that I'm very, very concerned about and that I'm not liking the direction which the show's taking us. But I could see why in the other hand as well. I thought this episode was good though. I did think that episode 4 was way better than the past 3 episodes. We had some really cool moments. We had some really cool reveals with Red Death. You know, she explained her origin story. We got the evil Flash tease and all those sorts of stuff. We had some cool, reveals with Red Death's powers, the suit and everything. I liked that. That was all pretty cool. But there were some things that it just doesn't add up. And when we go more in detail with the breakdown, obviously I will explain more. But there were some unanswered questions which they just let slide, and I just wasn't a fan of that. We did also have some very, very over the top acting that did put the episode down a little bit. My biggest complaint for this episode, and I'm gonna say it before we go into the breakdown because I just want to get it out of my chest, and I'll probably forget by the time we get to the breakdown itself. After watching this episode, this is 4 episodes where we're now lacking Flash action. We're not getting any Flash actions, always other characters. Yes, we did get that one sequence in episode 1 where he just kept dodging the boomerangs. But that's it. For episode 2, 3, and 4, we now got nothing. And this isn't something I like. It seems like a budget saver, so I do understand like they're saving the budget for bigger things later on in the season, which I could completely understand. But I'm not liking the fact that we didn't get any Flash action yet, and they're saving it all for last episode, just like what they did with even with Godspeed. We still had some Flash action though. That's the thing. And like with a speedster villain, that is something I would have wanted to see. I wanted to see at least 2 fights between the Flash and Red Death, and it only seems like we're getting one, which I'm not a fan of. Like if we have a look at the other villains, Red Death is probably the only villain which the main battle was saved for last, and that's not something I was a fan of. That's why when I watched this episode, I was like, in episode 3, we should have had a fight where Barry lost against Red Death, in my opinion. That should have happened. Then episode 4 would have been fine on its own, and obviously episode 5 is where we could have had that rematch. That would have been something I could have been okay with, but I didn't like how they just completely left it all for last minute, so I wasn't really a fan of that. But I guess we did also need it because there was so much they had to do. There was so much they had to reveal, but again, they didn't quite reveal everything yet at the same time as well, so that I was like a bit iffy on. We did also get some pretty cool twists, such as Batwoman being from another timeline, or Red Death being from another timeline, and that she is not the negative Speed Force avatar. So that was a big twist that I certainly wasn't expecting. One aspect of Red Death I did really like and appreciate was that they showed more of that threatening level this time, if you know what I mean. Like we barely got to see anything menacing in terms of Red Death, but I do really appreciate how we got something like the lightning clap, for example, where it caused the power outage, but realistically should have caused much more destruction. But also the scene where she not only tortures Barry with lightning but also does it with Iris. Those sorts of scenes to like elevate the threat of the villain, I did really like, and I just wish we had more of those. So yeah, let's talk about it in more detail. But obviously for those who haven't seen the episode, then spoiler alert, because this is a review and breakdown after all, so I'll be going over some major spoilers which you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So for those who haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode and come back later for this breakdown. But for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so first things first, we have Mark Blaine, aka Chillblaine, pretty much like building the cosmic treadmill for Red Death. And Red Death arrives, she's pretty much threatening Chillblaine, and she pretty much says that she doesn't really see herself as a villain. Like, she believes she is the hero of the story. And when you hear more of her backstory, which is that she wants revenge against the Flash, who in her timeline the Flash is pretty much like the rogue. So from her point of view, you do understand why she believes she's the hero. It's kind of like the Despero type thing we had last season. But then we had Barry and Iris together, and Barry pretty much questions why Red Death didn't kill him on the spot from last episode, where Red Death runs in. She's like, "Where's your speed now, Flash?" So there was something confusing for Barry over there. So it's clear that she needs Barry for something, and they kept referring to Red Death as a he. So it's pretty much an indication that they still don't know that Batwoman was Red Death at that time, and they've never even met Ryan Wilder as well. So that's another thing that I'm glad they acknowledged in this episode. Now, one interesting thing is that we finally had baby Jenna showing up. Well, it's not even baby Jenna anymore, it's just Jenna. But I'm glad that they finally mentioned it, because it's been God knows how many seasons where this character hasn't been mentioned. They've just been acting like she's not around. And we obviously had, Joe and Cecile talking more about, leaving Central City and those sorts of stuff. So we have that conflict between Joe and Cecile, which later on does get resolved. We then have the Flash and Red Death confronting each other. We find out more about Red Death. She does say, "I am vengeance, I am the night, I am the Red Death." I thought that was pretty cool. But one thing that I wasn't really too much of a fan of was the lightning clap, and that, causing a blackout in Central City. Visually looks cool. Yes, it was a cool thing she's done, but you have to take into account this is a lightning clap. This would cause mass destruction. Literally, it would destroy buildings, it would strike people, but it literally just goes through everyone and just switches off electricity, which didn't really make too much sense, and that was something I didn't like. But we do have an OG rogue joining in the squad, and that obviously being the OG Rainbow Raider with, I guess, a new power, which is to pretty much now make someone fear instead of just be angry. So that was pretty interesting. He was a throwaway villain. There wasn't really a need for him to be around, in my opinion. It just feels like, the rogues are getting more and more crowded, and that's not something I like. I just personally think the rogues should have been defeated this episode, and we should have just purely left the Red Death and the Flash conflict for last. I genuinely think something like that should have happened, but unfortunately it didn't, and it did. I don't know, I am worried going into the finale because of all of this as well. But obviously we do have the Flash captured. We do have a small interaction between Barry and Mark. Barry giving a pep talk to Mark about like redemption and those sorts of stuff, and how, for example, before Frost became one of Barry's best friends, she tried to kill him. I thought that was a nice scene together. Now, another complaint I did have was when Red Death appeared and like she had the voice effects. 50% of the time you can barely hear what she's saying. Like, the difference between Zoom and Red Death is that the voice effect for Red Death, it's like they use the modulator in a way where it's done post-production. Like, the actor doesn't really do that. The voice for Zoom, the actor actually did. That was the difference. That's why for Zoom, it was so clear to hear what Zoom said. But for Red Death, it's not really clear. The voice effects weren't really the best with it. Just like Red Death's movements, there was some over-the-top acting there in between, but I didn't really like that. We did have Barry trying to see the best in the villains as well, especially that is what Red Death does mention. You try to see the best in your villains, and we have Barry talking to Red Death, talking about the negative speed force and how it's manipulating her and all those sorts of stuff. But the big twist is she is not the avatar for the negative speed force. Her speed is artificial, which doesn't make sense, because how is her lightning red? How is she vibrating like Reverse Flash? How's her eyes glowing like Reverse Flash? Those all don't make sense, but at least it does explain why she needs the cosmic treadmill, because she cannot properly tap into the speed force. She's not a natural speedster. So that bit I do quite like, because it does make sense. And I did find it pretty cool how her suit kind of functions like Savitar in a way, where she takes off the helmet and we reveal it's like no one's around, but rather the suit's able to like control itself. It's that advanced, so I thought that was pretty cool. But while that is happening, we do obviously have Ryan Wilder going up to Iris in the house. You know, they have an interaction. You know, she's trying to essentially play the Jay Garrick, pretty much working on the inside. She's acting like she is Batwoman. She's injured and she's asking for Iris's help. I do really like how they acted like they didn't know each other, like they've never met, so that was something I'm glad they acknowledged. Obviously, on the part of Ryan Wilder, she knows who Iris is, but Iris doesn't know who Ryan Wilder is. Like, this is the first interaction they've had, although it's not really the Ryan Wilder. And we had this imposter Ryan Wilder pretty much talking about how she got injured. You know, we had Iris asking all of these like reporterish, detective-ish type questions, and this was something I did really like with her character, so I'm really, really glad about that. Like, Iris was so well written in this episode. I really liked that, in my opinion. Now, the biggest complaint for me in this scene was Iris pulls the negative velocity gun, which was a gun they established in Reverse Flashpoint. This was the weapon Ryan Wilder gave Iris during Reverse Flashpoint to use against the speedster. But they didn't really explain how Iris has it in this timeline, which again left a lot of question marks, and again, it wasn't something I was a fan of. But we find out that obviously Ryan Wilder needed this cosmic treadmill to go back to her timeline. She does pretty much say that she wants to get revenge on the Flash, in her timeline the Flash is evil, which, yes, it is an Easter egg to Reverse Flashpoint, but it didn't really make too much sense because in Reverse Flashpoint in the year 2031, Batwoman was still Batwoman. That didn't change. So this is an alternate timeline version of Batwoman, but it's from a completely different timeline to Reverse Flashpoint, where the Flash is evil, all those sorts of stuff. So I did kind of like that addition. You know, she does mention that she had her own Justice League as well, how she was the adopted daughter of Thomas and Martha Wayne, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we had her revealing more, like how she's not trying to just stop crimes, she's just trying to completely eliminate it and all those sorts of stuff. Javicia Leslie acting as a villain I thought was pretty good for a majority of this episode, whereas there are some bits where it was a bit too over the top, which we will get into. But we do have Ryan Wilder, or imposter Ryan Wilder, revealing more about her timeline, like how her and Iris were best friends from that timeline. There is no Batman. She is the only Bat family member around. And, you know, she studied her allies from the Justice League, most notably the Flash, and that's why she stole super speed to eliminate crime. She created an artificial speed force to do so she needs Barry's speed. But the thing is, the speed force rejected her, and that's why she got sent to this timeline. So I'm glad they acknowledged all of it, how she ended up in this timeline, why she's so against the Flash and things like that. And the reason why she's against the Flash and why she wants revenge is because Iris turned against Ryan, aka Red Death, and the Flash comes in with the Rogues. Ryan tried to face off against the Flash and the Rogues. She tries to throw lightning, but it hits Iris instead, so her best friend pretty much dies in front of her. So that was a traumatic experience for Red Death, and that's why she wants revenge against the Flash, not only by bringing Iris to her timeline, but also taking down her version of the Flash, and that's why she wants the cosmic treadmill. So pretty much she doesn't have an established rivalry with our version of the Flash until the very end of the episode, which again, it was another complaint I had, because I thought they had an established rivalry before and it would have made things more intense. But this I wasn't really a fan of, but I guess it was a cool twist nonetheless. We did have Iris not buying her whole story. She's like, you're a liar, you're lying, I don't, like, these don't add up, you were jealous, and all those sorts of stuff. And we had like Ryan Wilder going crazy. I thought that was pretty cool. Once again, a bit of over the top acting here and then, but again, nothing too bad in my opinion. But then we had this really cool scene where Red Death's suit just like zips in, and like it's like an Iron Man transformation type thing, which I thought was pretty cool. But we then had Red Death dragging Iris to that warehouse where Barry is trapped with Chillblaine. And, you know, Chillblaine's activating the cosmic treadmill. Red Death tells Barry to go onto that cosmic treadmill and pretty much start running. And the whole point of this is to pretty much tip the scales, like punch a hole through space-time, not only help Red Death go back to her own timeline, but also cause what happened to Reverse Flash from the end of the Flash season 8, where the Reverse Flash gets erased from existence because of him tipping the scales. So they were going to do something like that. Very, very dangerous plan, and like a lot of people could have died from it. So like these bits were in like it was quite intense and all those sorts of stuff. We did have Red Death revealing her identity as Ryan Wilder to Barry, and then also like the effects of Barry running on the cosmic treadmill I thought was pretty cool. Obviously it's an Easter egg to Crisis on Infinite Earths as well, which was something I did like. But this is when Iris tries to start pep talking Chillblaine, and then Chillblaine's like, you're right, it's never too late to change, and then Chillblaine pretty much stops it, and the whole time machine plan gets destroyed. And this is why Red Death isn't very happy about, and this is why she goes crazy at the end. But yeah, we have the cosmic treadmill getting destroyed. We find out Barry loses his speed, so he's not able to use his speed. But Red Death also got hit by the energy, so I'm interested to see what that's about. But it knocks her out, which I thought was a pretty lame way to get rid of Red Death, and it prevented a fight that we could have had between the Flash and Red Death, which again I didn't really like because we've been lacking on a lot of Flash action, and it's not something I'm liking. But we did have a pretty cool fight scene between Chillblaine and the Rogues, but this was until the good Rogues showed up, teleported Barry and Iris out of there, which Barry's not very happy about because they obviously left someone to die. Keon also talked about saving Chillblaine as well. Just that conflict alone I thought was something good. Barry didn't like the fact that they left someone on the team to die, but then also you have to understand that if they didn't, everyone would have died. Like Red Death was about to get up and kill everyone over there, so they just had to get out last second. But again, why wouldn't Red Death just go into Star Labs and just take everyone down over there? That's another thing I guess would be confusing. But yeah, Red Death is pissed. She wants now revenge on our version of the Flash, not just the Flash from her timeline. So we have two separate established rivalries right now. One from before in Red Death's timeline. One just got established, which I don't think was the right move. They should have done something where they had an established rivalry before. But yeah, the Red Death now wants revenge on this version of the Flash because now she cannot go home. So what is she gonna do? I will take him to war. That's what she said. Well, I will take the war to him. That's exactly what she said. Red Death goes crazy. Like, she has nothing left to lose now. She's gonna wreak havoc on Central City. So hopefully that is going to deliver one hell of a finale, although I'm not going to leave too high expectations after what we ended up with in this episode as well, which again I thought was a good episode, but that's it. It still had a lot of flaws, or I didn't think the episode was amazing or anything like that, and we had a lot of over the top acting towards this end, which it was very, very cringy in my opinion. But overall, as I said, I thought this episode was good, but that's just about it. We had 3 mid episodes in a row, 1 just good episode, like a 6.5 out of 10, that's what I would give it. We had a lot of cool reveals, mysteries being revealed, all those sorts of stuff. Red Death was pretty cool, but once again, just like what a classic Flash Season 9 episode has been delivering, it wasn't anything special, in my opinion, and there were a lot of moments which really dragged the episode down for me. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought about this episode. I'm interested to see what all of you guys thought of this episode as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.